All right, guys, welcome back to another. I don't even know if this is an episode. I don't even know what to call this anymore. But you're watching Jermaine Morgan TV nonetheless. And in this, I'm gonna be changing my strings. Normally, this is something I wouldn't do live online. Uh, Typically, I tend to think that these things are like stuff that people don't really they don't really care that much about. But nonetheless, um, I've learned over the years you'd be shocked at what people want to see, what people want to know in terms of getting your perspective on how you do things, what you do. And as you saw in the title, we're going to be talking about changing strings today. And, when is a good time to change strings? I know some people have questions about that kind of stuff. I don't know when I should be changing my strings. And really, it comes down to you as the individual, as the player, and what your preferences are as a player. Like for me, with this particular custom bass, and good morning everybody that's jumping in. But with this particular custom bass, there's a particular sound that I like to go for. Now it still sounds good. I was gonna play it with the old strings before I went and changed my new strings. And this is a Q&A, so I'll be seeing your comments and I try to answer as best as I can as I change these strings. But I want you to hear them before I change them. So this is on as is. They're still pretty good. I think they're cutting still pretty well, right? And so I have let my strings go a little longer than this because they still have, a lot of life left into them. Who's that? Scarabi, good morning to you. 360 Sports, good morning to you, sir. Uh, right. So like I said, it's still a lot of life left in these strings. And, old school, I would just boil them. It's for some of you guys that might be too young to know about the boiling trick. Now, if you like are on a budget and you can't, get strings right away, because for some people strings can be expensive. A trick that I've done before is I boil my strings because what happens is all of the oil and dirt from your hands, because most of us sweat, the oil and the dirt and that kind of stuff from your hands gets into the strings, and that causes them to deaden a little faster. And what the boiling does, it kind of brings them back somewhat new for a little while. It doesn't last that long, but you can kind of keep boiling them if you're on a real budget. I've been there, so I've done it. But anyway, you can boil the strings. Simply put them in like a pot of water, boil them. I normally add just a little bit of alcohol when I would do it. I would add a little bit of alcohol in them, and you let them dry for several hours. Make sure all the moisture gets out of them. Hang them back up like fresh strings. Let them dry, and then maybe 3-4 hours you put them back on the bass. Bass sounds like brand new. You can rock and roll with that for maybe even a month. Some people have went longer. So that's a little trick of the trade. If you don't know that about boiling strings, all my old school heads, they know about that. They know about boiling strings. What string brand do you use? Now we get into the questions that I knew what people were gonna ask. So let's cover that first things first. I'll play a little bit more for the people that are coming in so y'all can hear the shape that the strings are in. I hadn't tuned my bass, so I got my little handy dandy. Is another thing I keep handy. These are some of the tools that I'm using. I'm gonna tell y'all what strings that I'm using. I have this little Planet Waves thing I've been using for years. I think I got this at a clinic from Adam Nitty, like probably 10 years ago. And I still been using this thing, but it's cool because you have your string winder on there, right? You have that, and then you have your little cutter that cuts the strings. Another thing that I like to use, I don't know if I have it over here because I don't always use it. Oh yeah, my there it is. Something else you could use that comes in handy is a capo, believe it or not, that you could use to kind of hold the strings in place. I found that helpful over the years when you're trying to get them wind in and all that kind of stuff. So we may use that tool. I don't always use it, but that's a good tool to have. And this Polytune by TC Electronic is another little thing that I use. You often see it at the head of my bass. I've had this for years. If not TC, somebody. You can use a little small digital tuner or whatever that hangs on the head of your bass. So when you're tuning, you're getting ready to put everything back together. You can put that on there. So let me tune this. I haven't tuned it today. All right, and I'm gonna take these strings off anyway, but for playing purposes, I wanted to tune and be in tune. For my perfect pitch people, I don't want to bother your ears playing out of tune. I don't want to bother my ears either. So, all right, and this works. You don't even have to be plugged in. You just stick it on the head of your bass. And for these tuners, some of them are really sensitive where they don't pick up that low B. And what I found helpful for that is like, like it don't give me a clear low B. What I do is I'll either play a harmonic right there, and it'll give me, say it's showing that it's a little sharp, right? So I can play a little harmonic right here or right here. And that normally picks up my low B. So just a little tip for you guys, if you're using these digital tuners that are on the headstock and they don't want to pick up the lower notes, you can play a harmonic and it'll catch the tune of the note, and you can tune it that way. So, and another thing you want to be aware of in terms of your preamp on your bass. If you have a pretty nice hot preamp and it, really boosts and brings out the color and the tones of your bass, sometimes your strings can be gone and that preamp is doing what it does and it's keeping your bass alive when actually your strings, and what'll really tell you what shape your strings are in is if you turn your bass all the way off, you can hear the tone of your strings with your bass off. And if it sounds dead, really dull, that kind of thing, it will tell you like, okay, all right, it might be time for me to change my strings, because again, when you have a nice preamp, as I have in this bass, the custom preamp from Warrior, I think this is big bottom preamp, I want to say, but anyway, whatever the newest Warrior preamp I have in this bass that most of you guys know about already. All right, so he said I use a Snark tuner, the red one. Okay, so yeah, that's good. Drop what tuners that you guys are using in the chat. So for the strings that I use, I have them separated. I order my strings by the box. I've been an artist with SIT strings for some years now. Many of you who've been around a while, I've gave away a lot of these strings on this channel, but I use the SIT power wound. So let's put that on the screen so you guys can see the box. The SIT power wound are the strings that I use. That's, I think, the newer boxes. I have this, one of the older boxes here. You might see it like this too. But the ones that I have are the extra light SIT power wound. So those, if you guys want to know what strings I use, what brand of strings I use, it's SIT power wounds. I have used other sets of SIT, and these are nickel strings, by the way. I have used other like stainless steel and all of those kind of strings before. I use those stainless steel on other bases, but on the custom bases, I kind of like the nickel personally because they don't grip my hand as much when they're new. With the stainless steel, for me, sometimes I feel like I have to break them in. I'm more comfortable with the stainless steel on like a Fender type style bass or more of a, that body style makeup with using the stainless steel. But when it comes to the custom basses, I do a lot of sliding and that kind of stuff. I typically prefer the feel and the sound of the nickel strings, just my personal preference. So that's what I'm using, power wound nickel. All right, so let's get into this and get these strings off of here. I'll play them one last time for the people who came in late and you want to hear what these strings actually sound like now before I put the new strings on. It still cuts pretty good. So it still sounds pretty good to me. Those strings, I could rock with them for a little while and be just fine, and it still cut through. Like recording, I don't really like them. It depends on what I'm doing. Like if I was, depending on the type of song I was recording, I don't like my strings too bright. But if I'm just playing and being creative, I typically like for the strings to have some bite to them. What is that? The Snark tuner has a metronome to sometimes use the accord. Okay, all right, got you. So that might be a good option for some people. So let's jump right into getting these strings off of here, process I go through. So I'm going to take this tuner off. Usually, I would oil this bass. I'm not gonna do it this time. Each time I take the strings off, usually I'm trying to clean the fretboard, and I'm typically oiling the body of this bass over the years that I've had it, because this is a natural wood finish, and I usually like to oil the body as well. But I'm not gonna do it today. Maybe I'll do it the next time that I change my strings. But I have the Warrior anointed oil. I know some other oils that you can use is like tongue oil. There's all types of different oils. If you guys have a certain oil that you use, please be sure to drop it in the comments so other people who have the natural finish, meaning like you don't have a high gloss finish on your base, what types of oils are you using to protect the body? Like mine still has a pretty good, it's still pretty oiled down. From when Warrior did that thing to it. I haven't really taken it out that many times and played with it. It stays here in the studio, other than staying on the road with me. But the finish is still there, so I'm not gonna oil it this time for the sake of what it is. But I will probably wipe the fretboard down. It doesn't look to be in too bad a shape, meaning like some stuff that you want to do. I don't have the stuff with me. I didn't think that all the way through. But if your fretboard is in pretty bad shape, which means you have like a lot of grime and grit, like sometimes these frets can get a lot of grime and grit where they start looking a little green. You could take some steel wool, some little fine grade steel wool, like a lighter grade, not nothing really aggressive, but some steel wool you can take and clean off your fretboard to get all of that little stuff out of the little grit and grime and all that stuff out of your fretboard. You can do that. So anyway, let's get these strings off. I do it multiple ways. Sometimes I take all of the strings off and get to work. Other times I might do it one by one. I mean, take one string off and then, put that string on. And that's probably what I'll do today, is go string by string. Is I'll take one string off, replace that string, and then go in that order. Sometimes I'll take it all the way off. I might wipe as I go. So we'll see what we do today. So I'll start with the B string. I'll detune it all the way down. Pretty standard stuff. You guys already know this. I have two strings that run through the body of this bass with the design of this bass. Let me take this strap off so you guys can see it. I have two strings that run through the body of this bass. All right, my B string and my E string run through the body. So that's typically how I do it. Now with this hip shot bridge, I can run it through the bridge and do it either way, but I prefer running these strings through the body of the bass. What that does, the length of the string, it seems like it helps to sustain those lower notes. And so that's why I've always done that since I've had this bass, just ran those strings through the body of the bass. All right, this is Q&A, so I am looking at y'all's questions. How low should the strings be for a good slap tone? Really, it comes down to personal preference. Once again, it's going to come down to personal preference. Me, I kind of like somewhat low action. I don't like to work hard when I'm playing, especially on my custom basses. I have my Warrior here, and I have my Serene 6-string right here. On both these basses, the action is pretty low. Not to the point where it's buzzing. It's not that low, but it's pretty. I don't know how close we can get that up where you guys can actually see the action of this bass. So, trying to show you. There we go. Try to get that to focus a little bit where you can see it. So it has pretty low action on this particular bass. How tight should the strings be? I mean, that's obviously going to be on how you tune. If that's what you're asking, or you're asking about the bridge down here, you want to make sure that you adjust this, the saddle and everything according to the way your bass, if it's in tune and intonation and all that stuff. So because this bass is pretty set, I shouldn't have to adjust anything. Normally I've had this bass over 10 years. And typically when I change my strings, I don't have to touch anything. I mean, it's built that well to when I take the strings off, put another set on, and I don't have to touch anything. It's like right where it needs to be. So Can you explain about adjusting the truss rod as well? When to change the strings? Sometimes the action changes without noticing. Yeah. So something you want to do with that um do I have a truss rod for this bass handy? I don't even know if I have that truss rod. I'm not gonna adjust it, but I don't know if I have one handy for this particular bass. Here's my oil, my Warrior oil that I use when I oil this bass. I think this may be my truss rod. Yeah, my Allen wrench for the truss rod on this bass. All right, so if I had to adjust it and take a little bit of the bow out of it, I would simply, you know, put my truss rod in there. I mean, I put my Allen wrench in my, this ain't the right size, but I'm not gonna adjust it anyway. But I would either, depending on what it is I'm trying to do, like just a little quarter turn, so to speak, either right or left, depending on the bow of the bass. And normally what I do is I look at the bass, I kind of look down the fretboard, almost like you're looking at a highway, and see if there's any bow at all in the neck, whether it's bowing inward like that or it's bowing outward like that. And so if I'm not mistaken, I think righty tighty, lefty loosey, you know, so if you want to tighten because it's bowing out that way, I think you tighten it. Y'all can correct me in the comments because I don't often adjust my neck because my bases stay pretty solid. I don't have to do it. And when I am doing it, I'm kind of watching as I go, a little quarter turn here and watching what it does. And then if it's kind of bowed the other way, I loosen it to let some of the tension off of the neck. So righty tighty, lefty loosey with tightening the truss rod. Now you can have that Allen wrench to go in here like this bass back here, or some of them have them on the headstock where you tighten them there with your little Allen wrench tool. Each bass typically comes with a tool. This is the wrong one for this bass, but again, I'm not gonna adjust that anyway. All right, so let's keep it moving. Taking these strings off. And again, for the guys and girls that are asking what strings do I use, I'll put them back on the screen so you can see these. I'm tightening the string up. All right, so let's get these off of here. And this is different. I've never done this live. I'm so used to doing this. And, you know, I'll post pictures and stuff about the fact that I changed my strings, but I hardly ever do it live. So when I run these through the body, I have to get the little curve out of them, you know, where the string winds. I have to get that out of there so I can get the string out. So I run it, take it and run it out of the body. All right. And so I wind my strings back up, try to keep them nice and neat, and I put them back in the pack. When I take the other strings out, I put these back in the pack just so I can keep up with them. Now, the thing is, a good idea, especially for newer players, if your strings are like mine when you're putting them on here and they're not bad, I would keep these strings handy if you don't have a brand new set with you. They're already cut to length. That way, if you break a string on a gig, you got your strings. Like, don't wait till your strings break to change them. If you're changing your strings pretty regularly and that they're still kind of got some life left into them, then keep your strings. Put them back in the pack. Like when I take my string out, I have custom gauges. We'll go through that too. When I take my strings out of the pack, I put these right back in the pack. I might stick them in my bass case. That way, if I break a string on a gig, I just pop this one out, put it right back in there. It's already cut the length, and it'll get me through the gig. So that's just a little pro tip for you guys. You know, don't always throw away your old strings. Keep your old strings because you never know, they might come in handy. Just keep, I would say keep the last 2 sets at least. I got probably like years worth of old strings still around here. But hang on to your old strings if you can't readily get to a new set. I also have a box that I ordered, so I got all my strings here. But just in case you're somebody, you know, you don't know when the next time you're going to get strings, that kind of thing. All right, so I tried SIT Fusions, and it made my Lakeland clanky when slapping, very bright noise when treble was not halfway. My go-to was Elixir. Okay, all good. And again, that comes back to your preference of strings. Everything doesn't work for everybody. I had a guy that called me. I don't know if he's watching today. He called me a few weeks ago, and he was asking me about Warrior basses, and what I thought about them, and asked me about my bass because obviously, if you guys been around for a while, I've been playing this bass for a long time, almost 14 years. And he liked the tone and the sound of this bass and wanted to know if he should check out Warrior. And the best thing I told him, look, if you're, and he lived in Atlanta, I said, you need to ride right up to Rossville and go to Warrior if you can. If you got access to it, go to Warrior and play the basses and see how you like them, see how they make you feel, And if you like what you're hearing with the Warrior basses, then by all means, go get you one. Also, I recommend it. I said, take your bass rig up there, play their basses through your rig, see how you like it. So you want to, I never advise anybody to just completely take my word or anybody's word for anything because we're all different. I've been with SIT over 10 years now, well over 10 years. Man, probably longer than that. But but I've been with SIT Strings, and they work. The company works with me. It works for me, and I like them. I don't have a problem with SIT. They've been straight up with me, and not only do I like the strings, but the relationship that I have with the company. Tim Fouts, I think one of the owners over there with SIT Strings, has been great. Working with me over the years. There have been things that I've done when I went to, do clinics and did things for the community, giveaways, that type of thing. And SIT has always supported the things that I've done, including Say It With Your Strings contests and other various things that I've done over the years. So in addition to them having great strings, they've been very supportive of me as an artist. So I look at that kind of stuff. With what I'm doing and the things that I use and the things that I promote. So that's why you hear me proudly promote SIT Strings, because I've done tons of giveaways on this channel, and SIT has always supported those. And again, they make a great string. All right, so let's keep it moving. So far, I'm talking and I got only 2 off. I normally have a little rag over here that I take and wipe my fretboard down, but wouldn't you know it, my rag has, my little towel has grown legs. I see another one over there in the corner, so let me grab it right quick. I'll be right back. All right, so I got this one, just a regular little, just terry cloth or whatever. So we're going to keep moving with these strings. Keep your questions coming. That's what I wanted to do. I know we normally do our live Jam With Me session, but I thought it would be just as helpful to do a string change today because it's time for me to change my strings. And what gave it away is I played this bass, and then I played my 6th string. And I was like, my 6th string, the bite on that 6th string, I'm like, hold on now. Oh, wow, I didn't realize. I didn't realize that my strings had started dying on me. So I wanted to change my strings. All right. And so let's see what other comments we got here. Nicholas, I see you. I'm missing all kind of stuff. All right. I just bought a second-hand bass with nylon strings. Not sure how I'm feeling about them yet. I got you. I like the bass, just not sure if I should change my strings to some metal strings. Well, I would say change them. I mean, because you're not going to know until you do it. And keep the nylon strings. Don't cut the strings. Notice I'm just unwinding these strings and I'm wrapping them up. I'm not throwing away the strings. So if I put, let's say if I put these new strings on and I want to record a song and I want to use this bass, but the new strings feel too bright. Well, I can go right back to this set that are not all the way gone and still get a nice sound that's not too. And what I'm saying when I'm recording certain songs, there are certain, being a producer, working with different artists, everybody doesn't like the bright bass string tone. Everybody doesn't like that. Everybody's not a fan of that. Everybody's not looking for that nice, crispy slap tone. Sometimes they're looking for a really slightly used string or a really dead string. And this bass gives me so many options of tonalities. I can get almost any kind of tone out of this bass, but I have to make sure some of the times that my strings are not too bright when I when I'm recording certain sounds, especially something that sounds a little bit more soulful or something that feels a little bit more old school, because that bright sound of that high pitched sound that comes from new strings can sometimes get in the way of what I'm trying to do. All right. So let's see here. Elixir has been really great to me. I bought from Amazon and they accidentally sent me two extra 5 string packs instead of one. Oh, come on here. Ain't a thing in the world wrong with that. So Leslie Wall says, very good video. I have SIT strings, also nickels is the way to go. Do love DR coated strings, last longer. I got you. So I've went with several different brands of strings before I landed on SIT. What was some other ones that I was using? It wasn't DR. What was it? Diodario back in the day that I used to use before I switched to SIT. I think I used to use Diodario. They were the strings, my choice before SIT back in the day. So, and I have played on other strings. Like, matter of fact, I think these were different strings because Warrior used the strings that they had in house. I think this was probably the Warrior strings that they were using when they redid my bass a few months back. So, yeah. All right. So the question remains that was asked earlier: when do we change the strings? Well, for me, again, it depends on what we're going for. What exactly are we going for when we're trying to change the strings? Like, what are we going for? Are we looking for a brighter sound? And I think I kind of somewhat asked that earlier. Do they feel good? Are you getting bored? And it might not have nothing to do with the feel of it. Are you getting bored playing? Are you getting bored practicing? Because oftentimes what I've noticed when I put a nice set of strings on a bass, it makes me want to play. So just for inspiration purposes, I might put a new set of strings on the bass, just for that. That's solid, I feel there. All right, so let's see here. Any thoughts on Dunlap Brights? I want to try them. I haven't played with Dunlaps, any of their strings, so I wouldn't be the one to ask, but that's a great conversation for the comments. And I want you guys to chime in on the comments. SIT is my preference. But I'll be interested to hear what everybody's talking about in the comments, what you're using, what your preference is, and why that's your preference. About half round string is a good sounding string. See, everybody got different, opinions and perspectives on what they like. And it comes down a lot of times to the style of music you're playing. I think if you're playing I spend a lot of time talking about gospel music on this channel. I think if you're playing like choir, modern gospel music, you definitely want to keep a set of fresh strings on your bass. I'm going to try to wipe this fretboard down a little bit, Yeah, we're going to wipe that down a little bit to get any little residue that might be lurking there. Get it off. And I got some, there's some spray. You would think I have all this stuff sitting right here. There's some spray you can also use for your fretboard, like called fretboard cleaner, if you want to use that. I don't have my other oil. I got some other oil that I use, as well as my Warrior oil that I can use to oil the fretboard down too. Let's see if I got any left in here. Just to put a little bit on the fretboard. That thing right there is bone dry. I got another container of oil, and it's not out here. And I don't know where it's at. So let's see if anything is in this. And I think this one is bone dry too. Yeah. Yeah, it's bone dry. So right now we're going to wipe down and keep it moving. All right. And so I just try to make sure I get any little residue. Just wipe it really good. And clean it. If you have steel wool, that will work well to clean that fretboard off really good. But again, this is not in bad shape. So I'm not really making that big of a deal about it. But like here, you can see a little residue when you take your rag. You see a little bit of residue there. That's the stuff that comes off your hands that makes your strings start to deaden. If you didn't know that already, so those are the things you want to kind of be mindful of. And I'll do a deep clean on this bass. I do it later, but for the sake of the day, we're just changing these strings and keeping it moving. All right. Let's see here. For me, I change. I missed that comment. For me, I change the elixirs on all 5 bases once a year. The reason is that they cost 50 a pack, so I can't consistently keep buying. Also, bass players need to keep hands clean before playing. There you go. Good. That's really good. That's a tip that I picked up on years ago. Is I typically like lotions and that kind of thing. I mean, we all want to, put lotions on, especially us darker pigmented people. We want to keep lotion and stuff on our hands. But a good idea, don't put that on right before you play, because that will deaden your strings a lot quicker. You'll go through strings much quicker when you're like putting, lotion or Vaseline or any type of lubricant on your hands. You want to keep your hands as dry as possible when you're playing the bass. So if you know you got a gig coming up, make sure you've put that lotion or whatever on hours, hopefully before you started playing. And then another thing I'll keep, when I know I'm going to be playing, I'm going to be hot. When I was traveling a lot, I kept a towel with me. And what I would do right before I got ready to play, I would dry my hands off really, really, really good. I would dry my hands off, make sure I got all the oil, because we naturally produce oil in our hands. So I would make sure that I got all the oil and that kind of stuff off of my fingers before I started playing. So that's really, really good. What's that? Joe Reacts. Really good insight on talking about making sure that your hands are clean before you play, and make sure your hands are dry. Make sure your hands are not too sweaty. Sometimes we're playing outdoor events, outdoor gigs. We can't really help it. We're sweating. But if you can, try to keep your hands as dry as possible, because it's going to extend the life and the longevity of your strings. If you get a chance, borrow a Sire M7 6-string bass and give us your thoughts on it in the future. I don't know. We'll see about that. Or just go to Guitar Center and try Sire and give us your thoughts for the gospel basses. I haven't played the M7. I heard a lot about it. My guy, Jamal Andrews, before he passed away, I see he was playing a Sire amongst other basses. Jamal had an incredible collection of basses, but he had that Sire, that Marcus Miller Sire 6-string bass, and it sounded great from what I heard. I mean, I had no problems with it. I like what I heard. And again, guys, going back, you'll hear me say this a lot. It comes down to preference, man. It comes down to, like, what do you like? What's your preference? All right, so before I put these on here, let's go through the custom gauges. I told you guys I use extra light, so my gauges, I go with a bigger, the B string. This is a 125 that I have, and then for my E string, I go with a 95. Then it's an 80, 60, 40. That's what I use. Now my 6 string, my last string, my C string is a 30. So those are the custom gauges that I use. So I go 125, 95, 80, 60, and 40. Those are the gauges that I personally use. I like those gauges, especially on my custom basses. It just feels comfortable. I don't have to work as hard. Y'all know I like chording. I like doing that kind of stuff. And just playing in general. I don't like to work hard when I play the bass. Typically when I play the Fender or something like that, I got the regular gauges on that, and so to me it's a little bit more work to play those tougher strings for the way that I play. So I prefer the lighter gauge when I play. So those are the gauges that I use. Let me see a comment. I'm moving slow on purpose, y'all. I could have had these strings on already. I'm just taking my time and answering y'all's questions. Okay, all right. I think I got everything so far. So let's start putting these on. I'll start at the bottom and work my way up. We can do that. All right. And so what I typically do, this is the fun part, because these run through the bridge. These don't run through the body. I like to make things easier on myself. So I'll take this right here, and then I'll sometimes take that capo, and I use the capo just to hold the string in place. That's all I do. I use that capo just to hold that string in place. All right, and so I kind of go in terms of knowing the length of the string that I have to cut. I'll probably go a little past the headstock of the bass. Personally, for me, that's what I do. That normally gives me enough. I might go a little bit past, maybe an inch or so past that, past the head of the bass, and I'll wind my strings in like that. That's personally what I like to do. All right, so I'm trying to see if I can do this. When I twist it up this way, I have to look and see which way the string is winding. So put it in there. I wind it like that. Then I tighten it the rest of the way. And I try to keep some tension on it while I'm tightening it. And that capo helps to hold that string in place. Now I can get that winding tool and make this a lot faster. But that capo holds that string in place when you're doing this. Sometimes I use a winding tool, sometimes I don't. I just go with it. But, you know, if you have it, it's super convenient. Let me get the string lined up. And I'm watching how my strings line up on here. I don't like them being all doubled over. So I'm watching that as well. So I want to make sure that I'm getting all the slack out of this before I take that capo off. I want to make sure I get all the slack out of this string. All right, so I think we're pretty good with getting all the slack out of it. I'll take that capo off. And now we got that on there. And I'm not so much worried about trying to tune right now. That's not my concern right now. I'll stretch them as I go. Just try to make sure that I'm working this string before we, get all into it. All right. So I could tell that this 40 might be a lighter gauge than they initially put on there. So I may have to raise this string a bit. I don't know yet. I'll know once I get everything on here, because I think it looks like they might have went with a heavier gauge string rather when they had them on there. I'll find out here in a second once I get them all on. But right now, that's my concern, getting the string on. So let's go with the 60. Put the 60 on. And if you guys got other comments or questions, you can keep them coming. This is pretty standard stuff here. Same thing. I'm running it through the bridge back here. Running through the bridge. Pulling it the whole length of the body. I'll take my capo, put it here, hold that string in place. Make sure I can give myself enough cutting room. So I may go with this one. I may go maybe 3 inches past the headstock of this particular bass. Make sure I got plenty of string to wind, right? And so we'll put it in there. We're gonna wind it around. And sometimes this can be the tricky part. Get it to hold enough tension so you can start your winding process. And sometimes I might go ahead and bend it a little bit so it'll hold that tension. I'll get it started before I put that little tool on there. All right. And everybody does this different. I know I have people out there that they're professional string changers. I'm not a professional string changer. I just know how to do what I got to do to stay functional with this thing. You got to learn how to change the strings and do all that stuff, because that's part of the maintenance and the upkeep of these instruments, right? That thing can use a little WD-40. That's the tool that's squeaking like that, making that noise, by the way. All right. So we got enough string on there. I'm not worried about tuning right now. Just getting them on there and getting them in place. All right. Let's keep it moving. Same thing. And notice I'm going back. My strings will stay wound up. I'm going back and I'm putting the old strings back in the pack. That way I got them for later. When I get ready to put them in my case, just to have them for backup, what I was telling you guys earlier. So let's put the 80 on here. And usually if I'm not live, I might be listening to music, listening to a podcast, listening to something, you know, while I'm doing this. And I don't really get in a big hurry to do it. You know, I kind of take my time doing it. I don't really get in a big hurry. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to talk to y'all while I put these strings on here, because it's something I've never done online in terms of putting my strings on at all. I've never done a video. I don't think I've ever talked about it online other than posting pictures or something after it was done, or posting that I had to do it on Instagram. But it wasn't something that I really talked about, because it wasn't something that I didn't, you know, I thought you guys cared that much about. All right, so let's see another one of your comments here. All right. Also, I never used a pedal. Would you suggest a multi-effects pedal? So I would definitely, if you're, depending on what you're trying to do with the bass, like for me, and by the way, the length that I'm cutting these strings, I just keep going more and more, adding an inch each time, because I want to make sure I have enough to wind in there. So probably like 3.5, 4 inches past the headstock of this bass. Yours may be different. Your length of your bass might be a little longer, a little shorter. So go according to your instrument. All right. But for me, as far as effects pedals, if you're trying to be more creative with the bass, by all means, I would, you know, I think I went the wrong way with this one. I didn't realize. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but I think I went the wrong way with this one. I can tell in a second. No, that's right. I'm trying to tuck this string underneath, because sometimes it want to double over. I don't like that personally. That's why I'm trying to fix it. I don't like when it doubles over like that. But for me, I like the individual pedals. I've used a multi-effects pedals, and that's cool. It's convenient. Like if you're gonna use pedals, having the multiple pedals can be slightly inconvenient, but it comes down to preference. As far as a multi-effects processor, there's a lot of benefits in using one from a creative standpoint. If you find yourself suffering from a lack of creativity, having a multi-effects processor can help you in that area, with just because you're hearing the sounds. And the reason why I say it can help you, you're hearing the sounds, those different sounds inspire you to create in a way that maybe you weren't thinking about creating before. Having the multi-effects processor just makes you think differently. Like you hear like a little delay or something like that. And it might be, for some people, it might be more affordable to go with a multi-effects processor than to keep buying individual pedals and building a whole pedal board out. I prefer, my pedal board. I have several pedals. I'm looking at it right here on the floor. I have several pedals here, and I like different sounds that different people have made, like the Corona Chorus by TC Electronic. I have the Spectre Drive, Spectre Comp, or whatever. I have a Hall of Fame reverb. This is an MXR envelope filter that I really like that sound. When I heard it and I heard somebody using it, I had to have it, So it really comes down to personal preference. But the multi-effects processor, I think like tons of people make them. I'm not going to start calling out names. I don't have an official sponsor for this video, so I'm not calling out any names of people who make it. But there's several people that make them. I see what you're saying. You have Leslie says using it for chords on a 6-string bass, like a chorus, delay, looper, all of that. I mean, you could use all of that. And again, to me, it goes back to the creativity of the bass. And I'm sorry for the people who I'm taking too long to get these strings on the bass. I knew this was gonna be Q&A, so I'm not in a rush to do this. We could have did a much shorter video and edited it, but I didn't want to. I wanted to talk to y'all and just, you know, kind of like a little round the table discussion as we talk bass. What other questions do you all have while I'm here? This is a great time for me to answer your questions while I'm doing this. I am having another video come out this week, however, where I am teaching. Another video will be dropping on Wednesday. So if you guys haven't been checking out my midweek content, please be sure to check out those videos where they are more, I am doing a lot more teaching in those videos. So I don't always use the capo like y'all saw. I didn't use it on the last string. I just pulled some tension in it and just, you don't have to have this capo. It comes in handy to free your hands up. It's something that I do, something that I prefer. I don't have a problem with it. So, to each his own. Everybody is different. So fire away with any more questions. But yeah, you guys know I love using a looper. So I've been using the effects pedals for some time now. A lot of different bass players. There's this new effects pedal that's out that works good for like synth bass. I seen Goucher talking about it along with some other bass players. I think Sean Michael Ray was another one that was talking about it. I can't remember the name of it. I wasn't thinking about it before this video, but it's a dope pedal and it's about the most authentic thing I've heard to having you sound like a synth bass player. And I want to check it out. Honestly, I didn't put that much thought into it, but I do want to check it out at some point because it seems like it's pretty dope and it seems like it's pretty fun to play with, and I wouldn't mind playing with it. Bro, can you please help me decide a good setup for church? We play quartet, traditional, and CCM. I've been through the ringer over the last 3 months. Hold on. I seen another one pop up. Let me go back. Been through the ringer the last 3 months, buying the wrong equipment. Greg, it's kind of like I'm saying with all this other stuff. It really comes down to personal preference. What are you looking for? Because truth be told, you can get the job done with any bass. It really just comes down to your personal preference. What do you prefer? What do you like? What do you like playing on? Like, do you like the feel of like more of a custom filling bass? Or do you like the more traditional route, kind of like, a Fender type feel, that kind of thing? Because that would be the go-to thing that everybody would say. Get you a Fender or something that feels like a Fender or something that's set up on that Fender style. Because, historically speaking, those basses, they are made to be versatile and they work in all those genres that you just named, Greg. So a Fender style bass could work. And when I say Fender, it doesn't have to be a actual Fender. You could have Sadowski, you have Lakeland, you have Bass Mods. It's so many out there that make that Fender style. It's another company I can't think of off the top of my head. The one that Snoop plays. I don't think it's Bass Mods. It's another one that make a Fender style bass. But again, I'm not recommending any one of those to you. It comes down to your personal preference of what you like the feel of, what you like the weight of, how you like the bass to look. Because at the end of the day, you're playing this. Everybody else is not playing. Everybody else might have an opinion about, well, you need this, you got to have this in your arsenal. I was told for years, man, you need to get a Fender. I bought a Warrior. I wanted a Warrior. I bought a Warrior. And I've done just fine with this bass. I had some Fenders, but ultimately you see what I'm still playing. And not just Warrior only, but I had some other basses. But when I bought a custom bass, this is what I wanted. So I bought what I wanted. And you go through that bass. You find the tones of that bass. As long as it feels good and the setup of that bass is where you want it. And if it's not set up like you want it, go find you a guy. And, depending on where you are in your location, get them to set it up. Get them to go through it. If you didn't buy it custom, customize it, You don't always have to go For the gusto with a bass, you can buy something and customize it yourself. I've seen plenty of cats buy a bass that wasn't a super expensive bass, and they customized the bass themselves. They changed the pickups in it because the bass felt great, it played great, but maybe they wanted to change the guts out in it, so they changed the pickups and the preamps out in the bass, changed the strings on the bass. I got a guy in Mississippi, James Howard. That's what he does. He goes through basses and he guts them out, and you know, he gives you the works. He's done it with several people's basses. He's done it with my brother's bass, and you know, basses that are not just necessarily super expensive, but they have the makeup to be a really great bass. You take a bass like that and just go through it like your current bass. If your current bass, you like the feel of it, the playability of it, you just think you can get a little bit more tonality wise out of it, maybe you should check or try changing the pickups in the preamp in the bass. Maybe that's the issue. It ain't always just buying a brand new bass. Warrior went through this bass after me having it for years. You know, I was still liking the sound and the tone of it, but when they added the new pickup and the new accessories to this bass, it made it like a new bass for me. And I didn't buy another custom Warrior. Not saying that I won't, but it brought life back to this bass because it was like new again. So it really comes down to what you're looking to do. I'm looking for my little, oh, there it is. It really comes down to what you're looking to do, what you're looking to go for when you're, you know, trying to get a bass. All right, so Norris, I see you. Norris says, Jermaine, a lot of bass players are constantly changing their sound / instrument. What keeps you consistent with your Warrior 5 string over the usual jazz looking instrument? I think I kind of answered that question somewhat, but that's a great question though, Norris. I think by nature, I'm a guy that's pretty just consistent in nature. I like to lock in personally on almost anything that I'm doing. I tend to lock in. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. But I tend to lock in on something when I get it and just stick with what I have. And maybe maybe that come from growing up not having a lot, you know, growing up in somewhat poverty, you know, you don't have much to work with. So you do the best you have with what you got, you know, and you just make it work. I grew up like that. And so we didn't have a lot of options of things. And then not to mention, you know, being a family man, you want to make sure you keep your priorities in the right place. You don't want to have 5 or 6 bases, and those 5 or 6 bases are not giving you the return on investment that you have tied up in them. Like this string, I think I'm gonna have to cut this. It's too long. So yeah, let's go back and cut this one a bit. Yeah, you want to make sure that whatever you got is giving you the return. Cut about 1 inch off of it. It's giving you the return on investment of whatever you have invested in it. And so me, again, I just got a stick-wittedness that I have with a lot of things, where once I get something and I kind of like it, I lock in on that and I don't keep switching it up. That's not to say somebody's bad because they do that. That's their preference. I've had a lot of bases. I have a lot of bases. Well, I don't have a lot now, but I've had a lot of bases, and I've gave a lot of bases away. Not because I didn't like them, but, you know, I try not to hold on too tight to anything. Some stuff. I still got this bass, but, you know, some stuff I try not to hold on too tight with. And this is coming from a slightly different perspective, but we don't want to get to the point where you're so caught up in what you have that you can't let it go, you know, because a friend of mine has this quote. He says, nothing out, nothing in. Sometimes when we hold on too tightly to things, we can't get anything to us. You know what I'm saying? Because we're holding on so tight. So there's been many bases, believe it or not, that I've given away. I've given away bases. And like so, I've had a lot of bases. Not a lot. I've had several bases given to me. And I think it comes back to the principle of the word. You reap what you sow. You know, you give it and you receive it, that kind of thing. So, you know, that's my little 2 cents on that. All right, let's keep moving. So has gospel basses outgrown 4-string basses? By the way, there's nothing like that low B. I think gospel music over the years kind of demanded having a low B string. I finally got the strings on, by the way, y'all. I know it took forever, but I think gospel music over the years has demanded the need for the low B string just by how some of the songs are written. And again, some of the music is written in a lot of the flat keys, so you need that low B flat in a lot of instances. So let's tune this thing up. And I'm gonna show y'all something that I do when I tune. Simply because these strings, they still need to be broke in. They ain't stretched out yet. It's risky because you could break a string doing this, but it's something I like to do. Once I get it all tuned up, I like to stretch these strings, and I'll show you here in just a second what I do. I see your comment. Greg said, I started, hold on. There we go. You said, I started with a 4-string Fender, and the MD said that wasn't, that won't cut it. I got you. I didn't see that word. That won't cut it. And I bought an amp just to find out it was a keyboard amp. Oh, wow. I went through 3 basses and 3 amps. Oh, man, I'm sorry, Greg. That's bad. So, Greg, just, okay. Tell me this. What's your situation at church? Like, are y'all running through like a system, like PA system at the church or whatever? Or is like your bass it? Like, are you running through the house? Meaning, are they running out the back of your bass, coming into the house? Or are you just like, this is it. Whatever I got over here in this corner, that's all they gonna hear. So let me know that, and that's gonna determine kind of what I tell you. Now, I'm not gonna tell you brand because I don't know what to tell you as far as brand, but I'll give you some tips on what I think that could help you. What's up, Marcus? Marcus says, do you usually use medium, light, or which kind? Yeah, I said extra earlier. I use extra light gauge strings on my bass. Let's see here. So this action is low with these particular strings. So those that I had on before must have been slightly, might have been a lighter gauge. Now that I'm thinking about it, might have been a lighter gauge string. So these right out. All right, so what I like to do now at this point that I got them all on, I got them all tuned up, this is the abusive part that I like to do. It ain't gonna hurt your bass. Right there. I like to pick it up, shake those strings, bend them, shake it. Unless your bass is like not built well, it shouldn't hurt your bass. If you think this is gonna hurt your bass, just lay your bass down. Don't do this. But I don't pick it up that high. I just pick it up, shake it, and notice this is right over my lap. So I shake and bend these strings, right, like that right there, stretching them. That's what I do with my basses when I put new strings on there. So now I got to go back and retune, right? So I'll go back and retune. Right? So now they're pretty tuned. So what I also do to kind of set them up, I got this little trick from Adam Nitty, is I'll bend it right at the bridge. I put a little bend in it, right there at that bridge. Take my thumb and go through there and bend it. Each one of those strings, I'll bend it, and then I'll come up on the nut. I do the same thing, and I'll slightly bend it after I get it tuned, and it's in tune. So now we're there. There we go. So I'll probably have to go back and adjust my action because my action is a little too low now, and probably have to adjust it a little bit because you can hear that buzzing. Right? And another thing you want to check if it's in tune when you do that. Make sure it's in tune with itself. And that's right on the money. I'll go up to the 12th fret, make sure that, yep, that's right on the money. There we go. Right on the money. Right on the money. Then here. And so what I'm doing there, I'll show you guys my tuner, is I'm checking to make sure, like, intonation, all that stuff, it's in tune with itself. So I check it here, then I go here, then I come down here. You can see all of those are hitting right on. Right? So on and so forth. So I'll check it and make sure that the bass is actually in tune with itself. That'll tell me if I need to, kind of slide the string rather, either forwards or backwards if it's not in tune with itself, to lengthen or shorten that string to make sure that it's in tune. So now I know I need to probably raise the string height because I can hear a slight little buzz that I don't want to hear. That's because that action is super low. But it's not every string. It's just my E string look like. Let me see if I have a little Allen wrench nearby. I don't know if I have the right size where I can adjust that string height to get rid of that buzz. But yeah, that's pretty much it, y'all, for the most part. Hopefully I answered everybody's question so far. Some more stuff popped up. I am the same way, giving away my Fender, gave away cars and motorcycles away. Most important thing is to hold on. Come on now. Don't start, Leslie. Don't start nothing on here. All right. Man, for real, that's why I had to go buy that new bass. Because I needed that fifth string. Yeah. I got you. Greg says we have a DI and a PA system. Okay, Greg. So you can get away. You can get away now. If you're not going to be doing a lot of other gigs that's going to require a lot of power, you can get away with like a simple 210 setup or 212 setup. Like you see behind me, that TC Electronic that I have. Not trying to push that on you, but that cabinet is a K212. I don't even know if they still make that, but that's like a little 212, and I got 2 cabinets of that, so I have 4 12s, and I can take that 1 212 and beat the walls down with that 1 212. I have a you can get away with like a 500 watt amp, but again, the way they're making these things now, you probably can get a little 400 watt, 350 watt. And do a deal with that. I don't know. It depends on your situation. So I would advise you to look. This is going to be the wrong size. Oh, no, it ain't. Okay, sweet. So I would advise you to kind of look into getting like a situation like that, I'm trying to raise the string height, by the way. Yeah, I would advise you to kind of look into that, getting like maybe a 210 or 212 situation. I'm still hearing that buzz that I don't want to hear. And as I do this, I know I'm gonna have to retune. Still a little bit more buzz than what I'm wanting to hear. I'm just trying to check and see if I can locate on the neck where it's hitting. And I'm not a professional at this, at setting up bases and that kind of stuff. I know enough to get by. Just let me make sure I put that out there. So before the critics get me in the comments, I'm not a professional at setting up bases. All right. So let's make sure we read a few more of these comments. Then I gotta go, guys. Man, I've been over here over an hour. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. So, do you sometimes clean the neck with alcohol, or is that bad? Is that a bad idea? I've done it before. Like when you have a coated neck, I'm not sure the technical answer for this, so I want to be careful. So I will say the steel wool, like using steel wool, like a lighter thing of steel wool, that's what you can use to clean the neck off. Something that's not like too high in like meaning like I don't know the quality of the steel wool. Like they have different grades of it. You can get some that's a little bit more aggressive. You get some more lighter. I have some in the house. I'm out here in the studio, and I don't have any out here that I could show you the right grade to use. But steel wool, you can take that and you can use that to clean the neck. And then I'll usually go back, and my oil is in the house as well. I'll usually go back and oil it, to replenish that neck with oil when I go back and do it. So that's typically what I do to answer your question, Marcus. That's usually what I'm doing. But if you have your fret is kind of coated, like almost look like it got a glazed look to it, I don't know if alcohol would affect that or not. I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that steel wool or some type of oil, using oil to clean it, can work out really, really well. All right. So Norris says, I have a Hartkey HD 508 that I take everywhere unless I want to have some flash with the GK. I got you. I got you. So that Hartkey is a very, what's that, vanilla in sound, light. The computer way over there, so I'm over here squinting to see that. Light and powerful without getting in the way. Okay, I got you. I heard that about those Hartkeys. I haven't used or played one in a long time, but I did hear that. That's not too bad. I can still hear a slight buzz. Yeah, I gotta go back to it. And these strings, even though I did all that bending and stuff, these strings aren't broken in. I don't care how. Most of the strings you gotta play them a little while to get them broke in, like anything else. So all right, let's see here. But that's pretty much the whole thing, guys, for the most part. The whole shebang. Only thing I didn't do with this bass is take the steel wool, go across the fretboard, and then oil it back down. That's the only thing I didn't do. But as far as getting the new strings on here, we got the strings on here. And just for you guys that might have jumped in late, the strings I'm using are SIT Power Wound. I'm using extra light strings. That's what I'm using. So if you want to know about those, these are not, from what I remember, not super expensive strings. So they're affordable for you guys that might be on a budget and you just want a great sounding string. That's a very affordable option for the SITs. All right, so let's see here. Keep moving. I watch you. Victor says, I watch you all the time, and I love that you show content, but I'm an American gospel bass player that lives in Nigeria, and their style of bass is way different. That's interesting. I'd love to see or hear, how they go at it, because everybody's different. Everybody has a different way. You right, from the American perspective, from the American church, and our perspective is completely different from what a lot of people do. And the American church has so many different variations right there in the American church. Everybody doesn't do it the same way. One church to the next is not the same. So when you say American church, yeah, like it depends what American church you're talking about, because gospel is not the same at everybody's church that come up American church, especially when you get into the different denominations. You get into the different, even within the denominations, depending on the culture of that church, it could be completely different with somebody in that same denomination in a different culture. So that can get very different. So each person is different. Each sound is different. So going back to an earlier question, it depends on what you're going for. What sound are you going for? Who are the type of people inspire you when you hear them play? What type of instruments are they playing on? Then maybe you should try that type of instrument and see what you want. So somebody says 1500 cracked the ceiling. So heart keys are sweet. The 1500 cracked the ceiling. Oh, wow. That's not good. So are you familiar with the Nigeria church style of church music? I'd love a lesson on that. I'm not familiar, Victor. I wouldn't be the one. I would be inauthentic to try to do a Nigerian style bass lesson, because that's above my pay grade, because I'm not sure. All right. So yeah, it's different, but I like it. I got you. So what is that? I guess that Pentecostal. I guess that's what you're saying. All right, so guys, I've been over here way longer than I wanted to be, but we got to hang out together. We got to do some Q&A, and we got to change some strings. So we killed two birds with one stone. I got to get in here and fine tune this thing to make sure everything is where it needs to be. But hopefully I covered everything for everybody that had questions today, and we'll keep it moving from there. Be sure to check in this week. I do have more content coming out about the it's a lesson. I ain't gonna say what it's about, but it's a lesson. It'll be out this week, so make sure you tune in and watch that this week. It's been a pleasure talking to y'all and hanging out with y'all today, doing this Q&A. It was fun. Maybe I should go live when I change my strings. Hopefully I'll try to move a little faster next time, because I just took my time today. I didn't want to get in a hurry. I have did it in a hurry, but I wanted to take my time and talk to you all, answer some of your questions. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys. What's the right way to connect the bass? I mean, plugging in DI, amp, effect, that kind of thing. And please, before you go, your chain, your connection chain, typically, let me see what your question was again. So I would go bass, effects, me personally. You're going bass, effects, amp, or you can go, some people want to go and bypass the amp and go straight into the DI. If you don't have a DI out on your amp, you can go DI in from your effects pedal into the DI, out of the DI into your bass amp, right? Because your bass amp at that point is becoming a monitor if you're trying to run your sounds through the DI. But if you want to bypass the sounds, you can go DI first, and then like that means that's getting a direct sound of your bass. Like for instance, it could differ or vary depending on if you're doing a recording and you just want the raw sound of your bass, but for the actual live show you want your sounds, then you can run into your DI first to get the raw sound of your bass, and then out of your DI into your sounds, your pedal board or whatever. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that, but if that's, you want your chain to be doing, you could do it that way. And then you can run into your amp last. Typically how I run with the setup that I'm using, I go out of my bass, into my effects pedals, into the amp, out of the DI of the amp, straight into the DAW of what I'm using. So basically, my DI is essentially my DAW because that is running direct out from the amp. So I have a direct out on the actual amp. So that means the chain goes from the bass to the effects to the amp, then to the DI, if that makes sense. So hopefully that answers your question. Yes, there you go. Please hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already done that. And if you need more help on your bass content, or not content, but you're being able to play this stuff, I have plenty of content available on JermaineMorgan.net. If you guys haven't visited that site, I got all kind of stuff there for you to learn and for you to get better on this bass instrument. So, all right, I gotta go, y'all. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. Peace.